Hi everyone, and welcome to another weekly energy update, a general tarot guidance taking a look at how this week's energies are likely to play out in our lives both individually and collectively. Now, I must say that this is getting weirder and weirder as we progress towards the end of the year. I know that there are a lot of significant and very impactful aspects taking place in the sky, which do mean that we are supposed to live unusual times, if that makes sense, but this is way too unusual even for me. Well, first of all, what I see here taking place in the world this week, we have the Nine of Wands reversed, clarified by the Wheel of Fortune, and the Three of Wands reversed. Now this means to me that there is a conflict, a latent conflict maybe, which is escalating, which is getting stronger and stronger. The tension is rising, and this to me says like a real conflict, not necessarily like a diplomatic conflict or a misunderstanding or two sides wanting to negotiate, not being able to, be successful in this sense. This to me seems like a conflict which is actually brewing and it's getting stronger and stronger. So maybe it's this thing with Ukraine and Russia and the EU and America. I don't watch the mainstream news as much, so I don't know a lot about this. But to me it seems where this conflict or this escalating pressure tension is fortunately the Wheel of Fortune stopped or put on hold or forcefully stagnated by something else that might happen in the world, of course. So this is a good thing because chances are there is something taking place, something fortunate, or something which maybe neither Ukraine or Russia or the two opposing forces or as many opposing forces as there are do not have in their vision, their view. They do not anticipate it, and something happens and that changes the course of events to a more maybe not peaceful resolution, but simply the Three of Wands reversed. It won't take place. Or better said, the opportunity, the opening for conflict, for battle, maybe for even armed action, if you know what I mean, is not gonna arise. So there won't be an opening and an opportunity for a first strike or something of that nature. So it will be delayed or it will be made stagnant. If I'm interpreting this correctly, of course, so let's hope that I am. Because another possible expression, if I necessarily wanted to interpret it that way, is that bridges are gonna be burned, which on one hand is lucky, because it does mean that there won't necessarily be a physical battle, but the abusive part is still gonna take place, which is gonna burn bridges, and in a indirect way settle this conflict, but not in a favorable sense, legally, let's say, or as in what is just and what is not. It just prevents a bigger damage. Now moving on, we have the Wheel of Fortune reversed, so the Wheel of Fortune appears again, clarified by the Four of Coins reversed and the Two of Cups reversed. Well, this kind of means an unfortunate period, especially until the very end of the year, because chances are like either a certain kind of market or transport, or it can also represent some financial or economic alliance between two very important power players, may they be nations or big companies, stuff like that. There is going to be either a breakdown or a big blockage, renegotiation, or it can be someone winning a legal battle, something which might have to do with the International Court of Justice and stuff like that, and that unexpected win blocking everything temporarily. But of course, another expression of this energy, borders being blocked, so it will influence economy, maybe not everywhere, but in certain parts of the world, and it's definitely going to influence it in a negative way, because this Two of Cups reverse can also represent small businesses closing down in masses. So it's not going to be a pretty sight. And the Wheel of Fortune reversed, fate is turning, but it is worse before it's getting better. And this Four of Pentacles reversed also represents that something loses its value. Something traditional, something that has always kept like a certain kind of standard, never ever felt below the standard, but there's a first time for everything. This can be like a currency, like the US dollar, for example, or this can be the price of gold, or anything that real estate values in the real estate market, for example. Something is dropping down very, very quickly, drastically, perhaps unexpectedly. And that is misfortunate for some people, and quite fortunate for another category of people, the opportunists, so to speak. And of course, there is the Venus and Pluto conjunction all through the week, which kind of enforces this, because something regarding value, may it be material or emotional or tradition, or that which as a collective we project as being valuable, something of that nature changes, transforms. Maybe there is a fall, an ending, and that also means that something else is going to rise up in its place. But it's still not very clear yet. What is more clear is that there is a fated event that is not, the best of news when it happens. So it will definitely, one way or another, shake all of us up. Next we have the Tower, clarified by the Chariot and the Death card. Well, you don't really have to be a tarot expert to kind of figure this one out. And, this kind of says what it says, so I don't even know how should I interpret this. But without a doubt, the Tower is upheaval, moment of crisis. Collectively speaking, it always signifies some kind of world event which is not really favorable, as in a calamity, an accident, something more tragic, something that kind of upheaves us collectively one way or another. So that part is very clear. Well, now is the Chariot. What does the Chariot signify? Is it an aviatic disaster? Because the Chariot is basically moving. It is like a purpose defeat where something happens and it gives us a bigger problem than what we're facing right now as a collective. What could possibly that be? Is it like an accident or something shocking happens that will take a life or a lot of lives? Because, in tarot, the Death and the Tower together are that combination which kind of means that a life may end in a physical or in a proper way. So I really, really hope that it isn't something that bad, it isn't something that tragic. It can, let's say, in the best possible scenario, mean that there are going to be travel restrictions, the Chariot, something does happen. So there is an imminent danger, the Tower. So it's not just someone deciding it, the legislation, or a government just making up this very quickly without like a proper reason for it. This time around there is a reason which kind of determines things to basically play out this way. And that reason is to actually save lives, the Death card. So in the best case scenario, it can mean further travel restrictions or a disruption in travel, borders being closed, or a totally new problem, a totally new situation which changes the whole game in a second. That's also a possibility. Because, we have the coronavirus situation, we have all this tension, the economic part, the mental, or better said, the psychological part, because that is becoming a big, big issue right now collectively. And, we are dealing with this right now, and something just suddenly, quickly, unexpectedly takes place, which causes a totally different kind of upheaval. So, anything of this nature. On the other hand, because it's physical death as well, and, in the tarot, the Tower and death together, maybe with the Judgment or with another significant card, well, that is the combination which kind of means the end in a literal sense. So maybe a significant person like a big VIP or someone who really done a lot of work in this world as a leader or as a big figure, as someone important, passes on. But the Tower also suggests, could this be a crime? Could this be something a little bit more sinister? Because following we have the Six of Wands, so victory, triumph, a moment of winning something, a battle of such, clarified by the Emperor and the Devil. So the victory of control, the Devil and the Emperor. The Emperor is basically the king, the ruler, who has the power. The Devil is control, this enslaving. But the Devil can mean so many things: illusion, urges, passions, obsessions. It can also be simply manifestation, something taking shape and form. And with this Emperor and Devil combination, does this mean that, for example, centralized power, the Emperor, forces some kind of control upon the population, like forced control, freedom being taken away? Does this mean, for example, like a victory over the freedom of speech in a court of law? Does this mean the victory of the truth, where a corruption, the Devil, a crime committed, how should I even explain this? A sinister agreement, arrangement, pact being revealed between like a world leader or between centralized power and an organization or whatever? Is this like a revelation? Or is this like the triumph of the corruption itself? Is this where a corrupted world leader reveals himself? Because it is not really clear who the victory belongs to. It can be either way. It can be the fall of a corrupted person, someone who's very significant, but it can also be where that corrupted person is triumphant. If it's not a person, it's even worse, because it's government, centralized power, the world leaders, etc. But there is also a total different way to look at this, because the Devil can mean compromise, which saves the day. It can also be centralized power agreeing to something which they normally would not agree to, and that can be a triumph for both sides, the population and them as well. But, in either way, nothing here, especially collectively, is very clear. It is under a shroud of mystery. It is very unpredictable. All that we know is there are surprises coming. There are shocks coming. There are unexpected events, upheavals coming. But how they'll play out, well, for anyone, including myself, it may be just a speculation. So let's look at these energies from an individual perspective. Well, this Nine of Wands reversed with the Wheel of Fortune and the Three of Wands is actually a favorable and lucky combination. Well, the Nine of Wands does represent a situation which is already, where the knife hits the bone. It is so deep, it is so stressful, frustrating, exhausting. You just don't want that situation in your life anymore. And because it's reversed, chances are you worked a lot to solve it, overcome it or somehow eliminate it from your life, but it just wasn't successful or your efforts were not enough. It would be enough if you had the time, but when the Nine of Wands is reversed, you don't have the time anymore. Internally, you don't have the time. You just cannot bear it or stand it anymore. And this Wheel of Fortune can represent a lucky breakthrough where it's not exactly what you think you need or the way you envisage the solution of that problem or situation or whatever that is that you need to get out of. It can play out in a totally unexpected, different manner, and that's not really bad because it can be easier, luckier, more efficient, more, practical than you could have possibly envisaged, planned, done yourself. So this can be a lucky breakthrough, a windfall, a moment of turning a fate which ends this struggle for you or at least makes it a million times easier. Then we have the Wheel of Fortune reversed, the Four of Pentacles reversed, and the Two of Cups reversed. Well, for some people, this does mean problems in the relationship, in the partnership, marriage. It can mean discussions, especially over money, over value, over finances, over what material stability and comfort means for each partner individually, and there might not really be an agreement about this. Maybe one of the partners wants to move, relocate, do something else, change their daily routines, the Four of Pentacles, and the other partner is not ready or doesn't want to, or they cannot do this yet. So there are gonna be discussions, especially if you have a romantic partnership, if you have a marriage, if you have a committed partner in your life, there can be discussions, talks, where both sides just express what they want for themselves in the close and also more distant future. But of course, this can also mean for other people, work like contract, business, project, and any partnerships that exist within those domains, those areas of life. It can also be a discussion with the boss. Maybe there are certain problems that the company or your place of work faces, so that changes your situation and you will just be confronted by this. It doesn't necessarily have to be something negative, but the timing seems a bit off in the sense that you have too much on your hands and in your life going on as it is. You really didn't need this, but Venus retrograde in Capricorn does suggest that a lot of us are gonna have surprises emotionally or what we value. For example, if we value our time and energy a lot more, much more than we did years ago, chances are we might want to change our jobs, careers, sources of income, livelihood. Maybe we want to spend more time with ourselves, or maybe we just come to the conclusion that, life is irreversible. You can't get back if you expend it at a certain way, if it doesn't mean that much to you. So, it is something to do with this, even if it's relationship, even if it's love. What do I sacrifice my time, my effort, my energy for? Is it worth it? And of course, this means that their changes are needed. Now, for some very, very, very lucky people, this actually represents something totally else. Now, if you'd had like a massive crush when you were younger or at a certain point in your life where that person just got away, where your love story, even anything about it, just couldn't take place, and there was a kind of regret that you carried within you, maybe that person comes back surprisingly, unexpectedly in your life, and whatever you missed out on, that missed opportunity that you regret, is gonna be lived again. Fate turns unexpectedly. But this might only be true for one person or maybe two. Now, going further, the Tower with the Chariot and Death. Now, this does suggest an unexpected turn of events which changes radically and profoundly your view, your vision, your desire for the long-term future. The way you envisage your future linearly, rationally, where you envisage yourself to be, where you envisage yourself of what it is that you are doing, how your life is, where you live, everything that has to do with the longer term future changes in a second. Now, this may be like a fated event. This can also be like a massive inner epiphany, a massive eureka moment where you unexpectedly, due to some kind of trigger, there has to be a trigger, you just discover yourself, your life purpose in a way that you haven't never done before. And that alignment changes everything in a second. It is almost like you have to say goodbye to an old belief, an old worldview, and just embrace a totally new one in the fraction of a second. And you can imagine that even though not next week, but this, whatever happens, may it be something outer or inner, changes your life. For others, this can mean this death card losing something or someone, but not as death, not as tragedy, not as, mourning, doom, gloom, and tears, but someone or something unexpectedly exits your life. For example, a person relocates, or I'm not even sure, something unexpected, and that changes everything for you. That gives you a certain kind of freedom you never had, or a certain kind of empowerment. So something will shock you this week that will reconfigure your, route, that inner GPS, where you want to get or how you want to get, which route, which path to your destination. The destination won't change, but the journey, the pathing will. Now next we have the Six of Wands, the Emperor, and the Devil, and personally this is good. It does mean a difficult decision or a compromise which kind of goes against your moral or your ideal, but it, in the name of your victory, your triumph, your progress, being the king of your own castle, getting to where you need to get in a position of power to make a very important change in your life. Now that's what's coming. How it is not known, because this combination is for everyone individually. This is something so specific to everyone that, there is no way to tell collectively how this can play out. But you're getting into your position of power. It's a compromise, or it's something that you never used as a tool. You always left as a last resort, but somehow that is being delivered to you on a silver tray by life or the universe, and you will know that that is what you have to do right now. So it's very empowering, because this choice is almost like made by the universe and not as much you, so guilt is not going to be there, and you will have this strength to go against a principle or a moral of yours for the sake of a power that you need, an empowerment, or to make a choice, make a move, do something very important in your life. Maybe not this week. This week you're just, the awareness comes, the necessity to do this, and the opportunity maybe. And this is something that you might be doing in April, but it comes April next year, and it comes into your awareness now. And finally, as divine guidance, we have the Ace of Air with the Ten of Earth. The message here is very clear. As long as you're free in your mind, the Ace of Air, as long as you have the liberty and basically the sovereignty to steer your thoughts, your way of thinking, your perceptions, and everything that has to do with the mental sphere exactly where you want it, without anyone being able to tell you what's right and wrong. That means that you're already free. That is the most important element of freedom. That is where freedom truly begins. always and always, always in the mind. For example, someone who is not really free in their minds can have all the money in the world, for example, because they will not know themselves sufficiently to do something to basically embody their freedom. But someone who already knows what freedom is mentally and is able to rule their mental sphere as a king, as an emperor, as a Caesar basically, that man is already free, and the Ten of Earth, matter, will have no choice but to reflect that freedom one way or another. And what the universe is saying, that most of you guys who are listening to this are actually free in your mind, and that is something more valuable and more important that you could possibly even imagine. And even though many of us are actually the opposite of being free in our earthly lives, we are enslaved one way or another, or we carry a very heavy cross, still that is necessarily, imperatively bound to transform. So we must keep this frequency. We must allow our minds, our thoughts to be free. That includes doubt as well. Why not? Doubt actually helps us. Doubt is the empirical tool to prove ourselves that we are free and we have power over our reality. So allow your minds, your thoughts, your spirit, your imagination to run freely and go wherever it wants to go, to attempt and fathom what it wants to fathom, to converse with the universe and just download all the basically information, because that is a different kind of information which the lower mind doesn't even need to understand as an A, B, C, all the components. If your faith in the mystery and magic of existence and life is strong enough, well, that's all that you need. And as long as you keep up this frequency, and as long as you allow your soul to be free, things will change. Your freedom is definitely gonna come. This Ten of Earth is the completion. So this concludes what the cards had to say for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you everyone for your love, your shares, your beautiful comments, your likes. If you'd like to keep on supporting my work, you can donate. The PayPal link in the description below. So with this being said, thank you so much for listening again. Until next week, bye for now.